All right, so by clicking on this video, you're wondering whether you should file the Beneficial Ownership Information Report or BOI Report, right? Understand, you don't want to get fined. I got you. So in this video, I'm going to cover the BOI Report and talk about why it's important for you to know where you stand and whether it's constitutional and if you should even file it, because it's going back and forth between whether you should file it and not file it. Well, today we're going to talk about that. So let's dive right into the conversation. This is the Rule Your Money Show. I am your host, Dakota Grady. So we're going to talk about this Corporate Transparency Act, which is required to have small businesses file. And basically, we got to file the BOI Report or the Beneficial Ownership Information Report. So FinCEN, which is a financial criminal enforcement network, which is a part of the Department of Treasury, basically it's the IRS, part of the IRS, is requiring small businesses that make less than $5 million to file this report. And the report is filed because the IRS is trying to crack down on businesses that are using businesses to money launder, to support terrorist acts, and also drug trafficking. That's the whole point of the BOI Report. Wanted to find out who owns a business to make sure if that person is doing something that is illegal through the business. The IRS wants to know. FinCEN wants to know so they can attack that person and put them in jail or fine them or whatever they do. Basically want to make sure that they're in compliance with the law. And if you are legit, you have a legitimate business, then you should be fine. But some people say that the BOI Report is unconstitutional. Lawsuits have been filed. So initially, the BOI Report was supposed to be filed by January 1st. If you started January 1st of next year, 2025, if you started your business before 2024. All right, so you had a year to file the report. And if you started your business this year in 2024, you had 30 days, actually 90 days to file the report. Now, if you started your business in 2025, you had 30 days to file the report. So basically, that was a time frame you had to file the report. Otherwise, you'll be fined up to $500 per day until you file the report, and up to 2 years in jail, plus a fine of $10,000. So those are healthy fines. So there was a lawsuit filed, I think, on December 3rd, and it halted the requirement for small businesses to file a report. Then, on December 23rd, another lawsuit was filed and basically said, all right, it's not required to file the report. All right. So then another one was filed saying that you got to file the report. As of December 27th, it's halted again, saying that the BOI Report is not required. So all this back and forth, should you even file the report? First, we're going to talk about, is it even constitutional to file a report? All right. In other words, did the IRS overstep its boundaries? So according to this report here, it says on March 1st, 2024, the U.S. District Court issued a summary judgment in favor of the National Small Business Administration, NSBA, declaring the CTA unconstitutional. The case originates from a lawsuit filed by an individual NSBA member alleging the CTA violates 5 U.S. constitutional amendments, which are the First Amendment, 4th, 5th, 9th, and 10th. We're going to look at those to see if it actually constitutes or violates those constitutions. Let's dive right into it, y'all. So my source is, I'm looking at this right here strictly from the National Archives. So what is the First Amendment? The First Amendment of the Constitution says, the First Amendment provides civil rights protections to express ideas through speech, and the press to assemble or gather with a group to protest or for other reasons, and to ask the government to fix problems. It also protects the right to religious beliefs and practices. It prevents the government from creating or favoring a religion. So does the CTA violate the law, the amendment? I don't think so, because it's not suppressing the person, the owner, to, or not suppressing any speech or right to press, right? It's not doing that. All it is asking people who owns the business. It's not saying you can't express your ideas through your business. It's not saying that at all. It's not saying you have to stop operating your business. No, it's not doing that at all. It's just saying who owns your business. Now, they may be saying it's violating it because it's not allowing them to express their ideas, but I don't think that's the issue. In my opinion, it's not stopping them from expressing ideas through speech and press. It's not doing that. So I don't think it violates that particular amendment. The Fourth Amendment bars the government from unreasonable search and seizure of an individual or their private property. Now, this one may be violated, all right? Because then you got to think about what is reasonable, what's unreasonable, right? Well, I don't think it's unreasonable for the IRS to ask who owns the business, because honestly, the IRS doesn't know you have a business unless you tell them. How? Because when you file your taxes, right, and you file a Schedule C, if you're a single member LLC, you file your income and expenses for the business on Schedule C of your Form 1040, which is your individual income tax return. So you're letting the IRS know, hey, I have a business. That's simple. So you're already doing that through your business when you file your tax return if you're a single member LLC. Now, if you are an S Corp or a partnership or a corporation, you're doing the same thing. You're letting them know, all right, I own this business. Through my tax return, I'm going to let them know that I own a business. Now, if you're a corporation and you are an employee of the business or an officer, you don't get a K-1. So the only way the IRS will know if you have a business for a C Corp is if you get a dividend. That means you are a shareholder in the business. Partnership would get a K-1, which is basically saying you're going to report business income from the business to you on your personal return. All right? Same thing with the S Corp. S Corp gets a K-1 too. So you're reporting your business income on your personal return through the K-1. All right? So again, it's not unreasonable because the IRS, you're letting them know who owns the business already. It's just you're letting them know who owns the business through FinCEN, through the BOI Report. So it's not unreasonable, right? In my opinion, it's not reasonable. It's not really a seizure. You're not seasoning anything from you. Now, they're seizing your money if you don't pay the fine or if you don't file a report and you're fined taking money from you because you violated filing the report. But I don't think it's unreasonable, but people may argue that it is unreasonable because they're asking who owns the business. They want to keep it private. They don't want people to know that they own a business, especially not the IRS. Because they don't. But I mean, whether they let the IRS know or not, they're going to let the IRS know that they own a business by filing a tax return. That's simple. So I don't think it's violating the Fourth Amendment, but some may say they are. The Fifth Amendment provides several protections for people accused of crimes. It states that serious criminal charges must be started by a grand jury. A person cannot be tried twice for the same offense, double jeopardy that is, or have property taken away without just compensation. People have the right against self-incrimination and cannot be imprisoned without due process of law, that is, fair procedures and trials. Again, I don't think it violates this law or here, this amendment here either, because you're not committing a crime. The only crime you're committing if you don't file it, you're not being compliant with the law of the Corporate Transparency Act, which is requiring you to file the report to let the IRS know who owns the business. In other words, so it's not really like you're not a criminal. You're not accused of any crime, right? It's protecting you if you were, but you're not a criminal again unless you're not filing the report. But then at that point you're not being compliant, so you're being unlawful. That's simple. The Ninth Amendment states that listing specific rights in the Constitution does not mean that people do not have other rights that have not been spelled out. Now this one could be a violation because People may say, well, they're overstepping their bounds to my private property. I don't want them to know who I am, but knowing what I know, because I do taxes for people, you letting the IRS know regardless of who owns the business. You can't hide who doesn't own the business, right? I mean, if you're an employee of the business and you're a single member LLC and you're structured as an S Corp, and you're the only person in the business, who you have no employees, you're the only employee on your payroll, the IRS knows that if you're a legit business, you own the business. That's simple. So you can't hide that from the IRS. The only way you can hide not reporting business income is if you don't report it. That's simple. Because the IRS doesn't know you have a business unless you tell the IRS that you have a business through your income tax return. That's simple, y'all. So it could be saying that this one could be violated because we may have the other rights saying that, all right, I don't want the IRS to know that who owns my business. That's my right to not let them know who owns my business. But that could be something they can stand in court. That's why the court is going back and forth. Is it constitutional or is it not with the CTA? So again, number 9 could be a violation of the Constitution by the IRS. And the last one, the 10th Amendment says that the federal government only has those powers delegated in the Constitution if it isn't listed, it belongs to the states or to the people. Ooh, number 10 could be also a violation because it gives the IRS, the government, powers only to work within the Constitution. Again, number 9 said basically rights that aren't spelled out. People may say, well, my rights could be spelled out in the Bill of Rights or in the states' rights, right? I have rights as an individual of the United States that aren't spelled out in the Constitution, but they're my rights. So I think that it could be a violation because they could upset their boundaries by putting on the CTA saying, all right, who owns this business? But in light of that, they could be violating law amendments 9 and 10, in my opinion. But who am I to say? I'm not a judge, so let the courts handle it. But in defense of the IRS says that, well, it is constitutional. Why? Because the 16th Amendment gives Congress the right to lay and collect taxes on incomes. Well, if a company is doing something shady through the business, violating the law, they're not reporting all income, for example. FinCEN found out about it. Then, in that way, they're violating the law to report income. So in that case, the IRS stepping in as an enforcement piece, which is FinCEN is the Financial Criminal Enforcement Network, stepping in to enforce income reporting. So that's what it's doing its job in that case. So make sure that the company is reporting income. So that means that it's doing its job within the laws and rules of the Constitution. So that's the whole point of the CTA. It wants to prevent companies from money laundering, which basically is hiding the original character of money, if it's illegal money, and making it seem like it's legitimate money, but it's not, right? Or maybe drug trafficking, right? Trafficking drugs through a business. Anything that's illegal that produces income is taxable income. Now, none drug dealers going to report their drug income to the IRS. That's just, unless they're just crazy like that. But anyway, any right drug dealer is not going to report income to the IRS. That's simple. But the whole point is the IRS wants to crack down on those individuals who are taking advantage of the tax system, financial system, and taking advantage of it to get around loopholes so they can basically benefit. Put other businesses at a disadvantage, and they're benefiting at the advantage of their illegal acts. So, is the CTA violation of the Constitution? It's questionable. I gave you my opinion, my thoughts about it, directly from the National Archive about reading the amendments. You decide. But actually, the courts have to decide that. I say it could be some likely violation of the amendments in a sense. But then again, looking at the IRS says, oh, well, we have the right to lay and collect taxes. It's fair to say. So they may be within their guidelines. But again, the laws, the courts are going back and forth whether it's required or not. Right now, it's not required, so I'm paused again. But I recommend filing it. Here's why. I recommend you file the BOI report today, if you can, so you can, one, not be penalized, meaning pay the fines. Two, if it's going to support our national security, help crack down on businesses, people doing the wrong thing when it comes to business, taking advantage of the tax laws and putting others at a disadvantage, I'm for it. Now, if the IRS does something with my information that isn't lawful, that's another question. But if they're going to reduce crime in our financial in our country through this report, through businesses, I'm all for it. Please like, subscribe, comment on this video. Let me your thoughts about it. Is it constitutional? Are you going to file it? Have you already filed it? If you're not going to file it, why not? Comment below, like, subscribe, share, and turn on the notification button so you can get information that's update, current, and helping you in your business, personal finance, and business finances. This is the Rule Your Money Show, y'all. Thanks for joining us.